Fulham 2, Arsenal 1, and the end of an abysmal run of Arsenal's fixtures culminates in a terrible loss to Fulham. A game in which Arsenal were a pale shadow of the team that we've known them to be for the better part of the last 18 months. What's up, guys? It's your winning boy, Izzy. And if you're new to the channel, you know what to do. Hit that like and the subscribe button to let YouTube and everybody else know that you are enjoying this content. But I had made a video the other day, which I'm probably still going to release, talking about why I don't think Arsenal are going to win the title this season. And I think I've seen enough over the last 2 games, actually the last 5 fixtures, to know why Arsenal are just going to make up the numbers at the top and not really win the title. Now, Arsenal are a team that are gifted, a very good young team that has a manager who's still learning to ply his trade in one of the toughest leagues in the world. But the reason why I say this is because this game shows me that Arsenal are one of those teams that just haven't built up the tolerance to try and make a run at the top of the table. And the reason why I say that is because when you contrast them to Liverpool and Manchester City, who still have the same managers in situ who have won the Premier League title, as well as went on incredible runs during the times that they did win those titles, I have not seen Arsenal do that yet. And even though they were very good at the start of last season and they ended the year and Christmas at number 1, well, this year has been very different. And Arsenal are still a team that's trying to make good on the players that they've brought in, as well as dealing with a front line that has been misfiring and is a pale shadow of what it was last year. Now, I say this with the fact that when they started off this game against Fulham, after Bukayo Saka had given us a lead, you would have expected Arsenal to kick on after that. But from a team that had exhilarated at certain points in their game against Brighton, which at now seems to be the only victory that they've had in their last 5 games, they seemed as though they were not ready to kick on. And eventually Fulham started to get back into the game. And despite a lot of possession, which is what Arsenal tend to do, the football didn't go anywhere. And we saw the same symptoms of a team that doesn't know how to finish chances, much in the same way as they didn't finish any chances against West Ham. And eventually, when Raul Jimenez was able to equalize, it was a well-deserved equalizer. It was a lightning-quick counterattack to which Arsenal had no questions for, because they were still dilly-dallying just outside the penalty area of the Fulham players, were able to get the ball, transition it extremely fast using the left-hand side, a beautiful cross from Kearney that was able to catch Arsenal off guard, and Jimenez was able to finish with aplomb. And after that, we still didn't see any sense of urgency from Arsenal. They seemed as though they were just ready to win the game because they are Arsenal and they are at the top of the table. Fulham kept on pressing, and you would have been forgiven to have thought that Fulham were the team that were trying to go top of the table at the end of these fixtures. Now, the game ended 1-1 at halftime, and you would have expected Mikel Arteta to go out and tell his team that they need to be less lackadaisical in attack, and they needed to have a little more cohesion, because Jakub Kiwior was not good at defense, and Saliba was not good in defense. Declan Rice was a shadow of the person we've seen at the start of this season, and there's no way you can explain the attack, because Jesus and Saka and Martinelli were just off of it. And Martinelli is woefully out of form right now. Jesus plays a lot of tippy-tappy stuff. It seems as though he's everywhere in the pitch. You will find him trying to defend at times, and that's not where you want your number 9. I don't care if he's a false 9, but that tells me that he doesn't have that much discipline as far as his attacking position. And even if you look at Arsenal's goal, I think it was rather fortuitous, because Martinelli's curling shot was headed for goal. But the fact that Saka did have the nous to have the positioning to be where he was did not show that Arsenal got that goal based off of some beautiful interplay at the edge of the penalty box or some darting run from somebody that was able to catch Fulham off guard. No, it was a rebounded shot in which Saka just happened to be onside and happened to be in the right place at the right time to convert it. Fulham, on the other hand, seemed much more incisive because even if they didn't have much of the ball, they knew what to do with it while they didn't have it. They knew how to defend. They knew how to sit in a low block, which is what most teams right now are doing against Arsenal. We saw West Ham do it to dramatic effect a couple of days ago. And now Arsenal don't seem to have much of an answer when a lot of teams play against them that way. Now, could it be because there is a disconnect between their midfield and their attack? Or could it be that the transition of Arsenal's play does not allow them to break teams down as easily as they did in the previous season? All I know is that when the second half came back on, Fulham looked the most likely to score, and they eventually did do from a set piece when Decordova-Reid was able to turn in the ball. Raya had no chance, and eventually they went 2-1 up. When you look at the way Arsenal defended that corner, it just seemed as though they were at 6s and 7s all the way through. And for a team that was so praised for the fact that they had the joint best defensive record alongside Liverpool, they have looked shambles in the last two fixtures. And if they keep on playing this way, they have some really tough fixtures that are going to define the last 19 games that they play in the league. And the reason why I say Arsenal are not going to win the league is simply because you can see Manchester City winning at least 16 out of their last 19 games. They've done it before. They've won 18 games in a row. You can see Liverpool winning at least 15 or 16 or 17 out of their last 20 games. You can see them, but you cannot see Arsenal do that. And as much as it pains me to say this, I look at the fact that at the halfway point of the season, and if I assess Arsenal for what they have been so far, they're a very good team, a very good young manager, but each and every one of the decisions that he seems to make at some point of the season seems to be detrimental to Arsenal. And the same ruthlessness that he employed when he cut Ramsdale from the team is the same ruthlessness that he needs to employ when he drops a Martinelli or a Jesus, and God forbid, I love him so much, but Saka, because right now it seems as though he does not have any competition on that right wing. And I don't know if he's doing him a disservice, because being so young and playing so many games, we've seen so many elite players burn out in their 30s because they played a lot of games. A person that comes into question is Wayne Rooney, who was magnificent when he joined the Premier League as a 16-year-old, and he played a lot of games in his youth. And depending on how well Saka is able to keep himself all the way through his career, he might end up being one of those people who's just durable enough to play for another 16 years. But unfortunately, he is also the target of a lot of tackles. And if these niggling injuries and little tackles that he keeps on collecting end up piling up, well, you might start seeing a player who at the time he's 26 or 27 start getting a lot of injuries. Now, he seems very durable at the moment, but that does not mean that he will be in the next 5 to 10 years, because we want to see this guy have a very long career. He is very talented and very good, but of late it seems as though his 8 or 9 out of 10 performances are now starting to turn into 6s and 7s consistently. And then you look all the way through the Arsenal team, that is pretty much what you see. Because even for once today, Saliba and Gabriel did not look as though they were defensively solid. And Fulham, as you proceeded through the game, looked as though they were the more likely to get the third. There was no sense of urgency from Arsenal. There was no haphazard defending from Fulham. And for the most part, even when we were in the dying embers of the game, it just seemed as though all they needed to do was defend solidly, just as much as they had been doing for the previous 90 minutes. And Arsenal didn't cause them any problems. So there are a lot of things to worry about for Arsenal. And at this juncture, if they don't do anything in the January transfer window, which Arteta didn't really hint at much after his post-match comments, well, we don't know what to expect. One thing that we do know is that Arsenal are not the machine that Manchester City and Liverpool are. And when you look at how hard it is to beat Liverpool right now, because they've only lost one game this season, and that one game happened to be a very controversial game in which, even with all the controversy, they lost it right at the death to an own goal, which you can't really blame Matip for, because it was a fizzing shot into him and he tried to clear the best he could and it just ended up in the back of the net. And since then, Liverpool have not really shown any qualities of a team that is going to be easily beaten. Arsenal have lost 2 out of their last 3 games now. And if you wanted to look at the microcosm of the last 5 games, they've now lost 3 out of the last 5, including the Villa loss. Now, when you looked at their Villa loss and you look at their Newcastle loss, you can say that Arsenal were part and parcel of those games, and they probably were slightly unlucky to not get out of that game with anything. You can say the same thing about the West Ham game, but how abysmal their performance was today should tell you that there are some things that Mikel Arteta needs to iron out, and one of the things he needs to do is start being more cutthroat with the favorites that he has in the team. I still believe that Arsenal are a good team and they can turn the season around. But if I am to be a realistic fan and a realistic objective football fan, they really don't seem to stand much of a chance when you put them right next to the team that had the best Premier League start in history in Liverpool, that won 20 out of their first 21 games. Or when you look at Manchester City and the most recent Centurions that still comprise a big part of those 2 teams that I'm talking about, because Liverpool still have Trent Alexander, they still have Alisson, they still have Van Dijk, they still have Salah, they still have a nice little core of the team that knows how to win 18 games in a row. And Manchester City, they still have Edison, they still have De Bruyne, they still have all the people that you saw them win those titles with. And they still have, most importantly, Pep Guardiola, and on the other side, Jurgen Klopp. So as it stands right now, after this very poor performance by Arsenal, they can go back and reassess themselves, but there won't be any respite because the FA Cup comes through next week and they face Liverpool. The question is going to be whether they are going to rest a few players, because it's going to be a tough game regardless of whoever Liverpool put out, because Liverpool are one of those teams that take each and every competition seriously. We've seen them do it all through Jurgen Klopp's time. So if they don't get their house in order, Arsenal can easily fall away from the actual title challenge. And now being 2 points behind Liverpool and potentially 5 points behind, because you think about Liverpool and how good they are at Anfield and the fact that they have a tremendous record against Newcastle, anything other than a win tomorrow is pretty unfathomable. And then you look at Manchester City, who are now level with Arsenal and are breathing down the necks of Liverpool with a game in hand. Well, then you have to start questioning whether Arsenal are going to be that team that is going to push these other 2 giants of the game at the moment. But anyway, guys, it's been your boy Izzy. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is it a little doom and gloomy from Arsenal right now? Do you think that they're going to bounce back immediately? Their next game is against Crystal Palace, a team that is also starting to find their footing under Roy Hodgson. And Crystal Palace are not going to make anything easy for Arsenal. They have a bunch of really good young wingers in Eze and Olise, who are also going to be chomping at the bits to try and impress at the Emirates. But anyway, guys, it's easy. I hope you have a happy new year. Arsenal certainly did not give us a happy new year or a Merry Christmas, but I hope that you end up having one. Thank you for your support so far on the channel this season. I will keep on making videos, and hopefully my schedule frees up a little bit more and we can talk more football. Peace.